travel, prosperity, grief, death, aging, all topics forthcoming on power, prayer, and prosperity. Conversations with Coach Barbara Perkins on the Perkins Podcast. I am Coach Barbara Perkins, and I'm looking forward to seeing you every Sunday afternoon. As a global leader and multifaceted businesswoman, I am prepared to have conversations with other experts in the field, all aiming to uplift and inspire. Welcome to Power, Prayer, and Prosperity. Happy Sunday, Coralie Adderley from
Happy
Nassau,
Sunday.
Bahamas.
Happy Sunday, my sister.
I am happy to see you with your beautiful Afrocentric attire, looking all fresh and wonderful.
Thank you, my lady. Thank you.
So
We're back for Pentecost Sunday.
Well, that's right.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So listen, I am so grateful to have you on today on our new podcast, right at the very beginning of the Perkins Podcast, Power, Prayer, Prosperity. This is what we will be doing for weeks to come on Sunday afternoon, just sitting around having a conversation about some of the things that are rises to the top for me as priorities, especially for Black women, but for people in general. And so the Perkins Podcast is going to be, and it is designed to be a place where we come on Sunday afternoons to really support each other and remind each other of how wonderful and powerful we are, how important prayer is in our lives, and the promise that we have to prosper. Everything else that we talk about will fall in those three buckets. But today in particular, I am so happy to be having this first conversation with you. I really want the audience to get to know you. Of course, they know me as Barbara Perkins, the coach, executive life coach, and author of 7 books, and a trainer, inspirational speaker, all the things I love to do with Black women. That's who I am. But I want folks to know who you are. So would you tell us who you are?
Well, today I'm your sister. That's the biggest thing. That's why I'm on here, right? So I'm Coralie Adderley, like you said, and I am in sunny Nassau, Bahamas. This is where I've lived for the last 30 years. I am a healthcare executive for over 30 years plus. I know I look 21. I love saying that. And now I work in the consulting space, business consulting, primarily for healthcare, in the healthcare spaces. And love doing that. Now I have started in the executive coaching space. It brings me great joy. And doing a lot of work in the NGO, non-governmental organizations as it relates to women and girls, both here in the Bahamas and globally, and having an opportunity to use my healthcare experience in those spaces. And having an opportunity to work with the International Black Women's Public Policy Institute has been just one of my greatest joys, and doing the work in our global engagement and, you know, really anchoring our healthcare pillar. So that's me in a nutshell. Married for over 25 years to the love of my life. And just enjoying life,
Well, that's a good way to sort of jump into this conversation we're going to have about loving your life. There's no better time to talk about being in love with life than today. Because as you know, Black women are just carrying a lot.
Yeah, yes, we are.
People in general. But specifically, we're talking today about Black women. And at the beginning of COVID, what happened, which I thought was amazing, Black women began to be elevated, if you will, publicly into leadership spaces.
Mhm.
It became very apparent in the US and really around the globe
Mhm.
that the presence of Black women, the influence and the impact of Black women in the health space as we started facing COVID and the disparities between who gets what services and such, it really began to take, if you will, the cover off of where Black women sit, at the center of everything right and every large movement.
Mhm.
There we are, right? So we started seeing that, and in some ways began to celebrate the power of Black women, the power and influence of Black women. We began celebrating that widely. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's about time, right? And, but there was something quickly showing up. What was showing up, one of the things that was showing up, that even with all the celebration, Black women were at a deficit when it came to joy.
Mm.
That's what it started looking like for me. That's how I described it.
Mhm.
And my relationship with, a bench, an extensive bench of Black women leaders showed me that. It informed me. Did you feel or see any of that as a leader and prominent voice in the Bahamas? Did you feel any of that?
Absolutely. In fact, it seems even more like you can really feel it even more now than like when we were coming out of COVID, like we were in a fog, is my words
Mm,
for it, and we're trying to figure out what that new normal is. Well, for all intents and purposes, we do not have we do not have a pandemic anymore, and we're back to a new normal. Not back to, we're in a new normal, right? And what you're finding is that persons have, like, my way of describing it is that I feel with my sisters, women who I interact with, like they're carrying hurts, they're carrying
mm.
disappointments. I've had persons who've had great loss during
Yeah.
that time and never really grieved properly. There are others who are still trying to recover financially. And so but we've moved on. Like, it's like the world has
Mm,
moved on, but we've not stopped long enough to acknowledge that I've not fully accepted this, and I'm not fully healed or
mm,
dealt with this. So I think that's showing up more and more now, because it's like a train that's moved on and it's picked up speed, and we have to figure out how to keep up with this train. And for some of
mm.
our sisters, they're struggling to keep up with the speed of it, and they're falling off. And that's the thing that breaks your heart, right? Like, how do you can't slow the train down because life is happening. I just said that today to a sister,
Yes.
life doesn't stop. It just keeps going. But how, in the midst of that, do you figure out how to stop and address whatever that is that you need to address? Or for me, what I'm dealing with this week is, how do you stop and slow down and be able to see when there's another sister who's
Mm,
struggling to keep up with the pace? And how do you, while you're keeping up, stop long enough to figure out, how do I help you? And
yeah.
that's, I don't have the answer for it. I'm that's just bubbled up for me today, that you have to figure out how to exhale long enough, like that breath I just took, and be able to see and sense when there's someone else who's not keeping up. Because you may, I know you do. I know when you know how to stop, and I got to stop. I need to do
Mhm,
that spa day. I need to do my meditation. I need to call a girlfriend. I need to take a trip. Not everybody knows how to do that. Not even everybody knows how to recognize that they need to do that. And when
mhm.
when, and then it becomes too late. We know stories of
Yeah.
it's too late, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know, what do we do? Like how do you figure out a way to make sure that you're taking care of you, keeping the mask on for you, but being able to help your sisters around you as we navigate this new reality that we're in? Because
Yeah.
we still hold the finances, we still hold on. You listen, I still got, my husband traveled yesterday, and you got to make sure he's packed, catch the flight on time. Now, when we're traveling, they're not worried about how we're packed and all of that. We're still doing all of the things, the kids, the husband, the job, our personal business interests. We're doing all of these things. We're balancing all of it, or attempting to, let's say,
Yeah.
and not always doing a good job at it.
Yeah. You have said so much, and a few things have come up for me as you're saying that. Two things that I want to point out. The point you made about how do we be in tune and in touch, not just with ourselves, but how do we do that for the people around us that either we are in some ways responsible for or in relationship with significantly enough, not that all relationships aren't important, but some are more important than others. For example, my neighbor, my coworker, my best friend. How is it that I can be in tune with what not only I need, but have an awareness that something's going on with them that they may not be talking about, but it's there and I can see it. You raised that. And we can talk a little later specifically about this. I know the issue that we're both holding right now, right? But how do you do that? Being an executive coach, being as we both are, one of the things that I'm very mindful of are keeping the boundaries, keeping the boundaries so that every interaction is not a coaching interaction, right? So I hold on to those boundaries, right? And because you don't want to be that friend who is always coaching, right? You don't want to be that friend who's always doing it, nor do you want folks to expect that that's, what thing. Don't want to be that sister who is always coaching in every interaction. Nor do you want to be the person that whenever you are invited into a room,
they come
you
to
feel
you.
like you're being invited in because you're a coach.
Exactly, right?
Right? Because
you're a coach, or you're the prayer person, or you're the,
every room that you go into. And so, but yet there's this balance between not being a coach in every room, not being expected to be the coach in every room, but standing in awareness in places where you want to be in awareness. That balance, finding that balance, because there are many times when I would be invited into a space, and I'm sure you have this. And I actually ask myself, now are they calling me because they want Barbara? Or are they calling me because they want Coach Barbara? And there are times when I have to make decisions to keep a little bit of professional distance so that Coach Barbara and Barbara, the girlfriend, there's a distinction between the two. So that comes up for me as you talk about that. The other thing that really comes up for me, you talked about how do we figure out how to be aware of what we really need. I'm going to give you an example. Something happened yesterday in the middle of the morning. And yes, I do put spa days, that I put those days on my calendar. I put Mondays from 1 to 4 where I stop and just take care of me. I call it my do me time.
Mhm.
And I do it on a weekday and I do it during the week. And then I also anticipate having my Sundays to do whatever I choose to do. So
Mhm.
there's plenty of white spaces on my calendar. Those are the unscheduled times on my calendar. I make it a point to have as much of that as I can. But having white spaces on the calendar isn't always enough. A spa day isn't always enough. It's a good beginning, but it's not always enough. Here's the example I want to give you. So yesterday, I booked this spa day maybe 3 weeks ago because my May calendar was so full. I traveled 4 times already in May, and we still have a few more days to go. 4 big trips. I knew that once I got home from the last big trip, which was LA, Los Angeles, got home a few days ago, I had scheduled this spa time at a new spa that I had never gone to before. In fact, I was gifted that service by a client. It was a birthday gift. So I was so looking forward to it. It just so happens that that day, the night before, you and I both shared some pretty devastating news about an amazing sister who transitioned. We didn't expect that. So it was heavy. Went to the spa. It was a 45-minute drive from my house. From the outside, it looked nice enough. Actually, it was in a very nice neighborhood, Buckhead in Atlanta. And I thought, okay, this is really nice. I was excited. I go in, checked in. I'm waiting for the person who's going to service me. And when she comes, she greets me really nicely. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. We go in and I don't want to, I'm not going to disparage her at all. But immediately I knew it was not going to be the service that I had in my head. I knew immediately. And as somebody who, I get spa services frequently, I was like, okay, this is not going to be the one that I imagined. And for the first maybe 4 or 5 minutes, my head started taking me on this journey. Should I get up? This is not going to work out.
Mhm.
And it was a 90-minute service. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, for 90 minutes, this is it. But quickly, what came to me was this isn't really about the service, the rubbing on your body that's going to happen. This is really about you honoring the 90 minutes that you have set aside to not answer your phone, to not fix anything, to just be still. And if you look at this service through that lens, it could only be amazing. There's only one answer, that this is going to be a moment to treasure. So I immediately started praying.
Hmm.
And of course, prayer makes you happy, right? So I immediately began to just shift. I can't remember what she was doing, but I took the 90 minutes to pray. Now, of course, during the course of that time, my brain wanted to keep defaulting to something else, right? Defaulting to something else.
Yeah.
But we are in control of that. We have the ability to keep those thoughts right where they ought to be.
But it's a
So I
habit we
said
have to
that.
develop. It's
Mhm.
something that I wrote down when you were talking. It's intentional. You have to really be plan. You have to plan it, and then you have to be intentional
Mhm.
about it, because it doesn't just happen. Innately, we're going to keep going. And if you didn't plan that, and you didn't choose to be intentional during that planned time, then it would not have happened. Or even though you planned it and you arrived, if you weren't intentional in choosing to make this experience something that was beneficial in whatever way, then it would have been for naught. It would have just been a task that you put on the calendar. So back to your point, is that it's not just about putting the white spaces, like you call them. It's being very intentional about what you want to accomplish in that white space. I tell people Sundays are really, like you, they're off limits. I mean, I spend time in church, but that's me time. I mean, I totally enjoy it. But after that, don't call me, don't book me for nothing. I mean, you'd be the only person probably other than my mother who would get me to do anything on a Sunday. I don't want a birthday party or nothing, because and I don't have agenda. It's just literally, if I want to watch a movie, but that's my time. The other time that I take is Friday nights. That's my date night with me. Nothing scripted, whatever I feel like. I prefer no invitations to do anything. And I love when my husband's not around and not available. And he kind of figured out, like, I don't like him to be home on a Friday night. But it's my way. The week is over. I'm usually busy on a weekend, especially on a Saturday. But Friday night, just do you. Whatever you want to do. Eat whatever you want to eat. Just do you. And I think, again, being intentional about what works for you as a Black woman, that allows you to refill so that you could keep going, right? And I don't think enough of us have figured that out. Or a lot of times, and I just had this conversation with somebody recently, we mimic what we see other people do. And it isn't necessarily what works for us. Yeah. So because another sister does that, that may not bring you joy. Like you say, like, what if joy for you is just sitting down by the beach with your foot in the sand, or for somebody else, it's going shopping and that's their joy. Don't mimic anybody else. We have to figure out what is it that centers us and allows us to keep going. Yeah.
Because we back to the top of our conversation, we're carrying a lot. And it's perfectly, what we're talking about right now is the permission that Black women ought to give themselves to be okay with not filling all the spaces in your life.
That's good.
All the spaces on your calendar. We don't have to do that.
Let me tell you what I say. I tell people, you're juggling a lot of balls, and it's okay to drop a few for a while. And I will tell my teams, sometimes I'm going to drop a ball. I apologize. We cannot think that we can keep all the balls in play all the time. And, and I think that's what it is. All of these hats we wear, all of these balls we're juggling, and we're constantly trying to figure out how to keep them all in place. Sometimes you have to put a ball down, or it's going to drop because you just can't keep it all in place. Yeah. And that's okay. It's okay.
So I want to tell you one other quick story. Something I heard this morning. Actually, Iyanla Van Zandt had a live on this morning, and I jumped on for a minute. And she told a story about her 5-year-old grandson who lives with her and has a bathroom in his own room, and that is the only bathroom that he would use in the home. So somewhere in the middle of the night, late evening, he had used the bathroom. She went to put him to bed and realized he had filled it with about a half a roll of toilet tissue. So of course it was clogged. So she said, rather than wait till the next morning, she decided, okay, fine, I'm going to go. She went to the store. She went to Home Depot to purchase a plunger because she needed a new one. And of course, she told a funny story about that. But anyway, she needed a new one, went and got there just as they were closing the door, right? 9 o'clock on the head. So they wouldn't let her in. She said, okay, fine. She still didn't let it go. She said, I'll go drive 20 minutes to the next store. So she drives 20 minutes to the next store, only to get there. And these two women were outside, recognized who she was, and started to engage her in conversation and wanted to take pictures with her. And she said, she said, no, she says, I'm focused on the task at hand. So she said, I wasn't what they expected. because they weren't getting it that, so the title of this live was There's Always More. That was the title of it. There's always more. So she said, I wasn't as friendly as I could be. I was trying to go and get this plunger. So she goes and get it. She says, and these sisters are probably talking about me right now on Facebook because she said I was focused
Laser
on what I was
focus.
focused on. So anyway, she goes, gets the plunger, gets back home. He's 5 years old. She'd been gone for an hour and a half almost. He uses the restroom again. And he did what she taught him, flush the toilet after you use it. He flushes. Now it's an overflow. So what she meets is now water, toilet tissue, and of course, if you know Iyanla Benzant, she said, and poop, but that's not the word she used. All over the place. She said, so she got in. She said, I couldn't be mad at a 5-year-old who did exactly what he was taught. Right. So she said, she sat on the bed and she started just thinking, there is a lesson in here. What is that lesson? And then she shared it because she said, there's a lesson for Black women.
Mhm.
What is clogging up our pathways?
Oh my,
Is this
oh my,
the
oh
word?
my, oh
Is
my.
this the word?
Wow.
What has clogged up our pathway?
Mm.
And what is keeping us?
Mhm.
What is coming up? Toilet tissue. And then, of course, in only a Iyanla fashion, what poop, right, do we need to clear out? And so as I think about this conversation about what we hold as Black women and where we hold it, here's what came up for me as I was listening to her. We hold it in our backs. So we have back trouble. We hold it in our bellies. So now we have those things. I'm not naming them.
Mhm.
We hold it in our breast. So we have that showing up, right? We hold it in our heads and our hearts. And we have all of the things associated with those parts of the body that I just talked about. These are the diseases that are causing us diseases.
Mhm.
And so today on Power, Prayer, and Prosperity, we are telling our sisters it is absolutely okay for you to put a ball down, drop a ball.
That's it.
Don't pick up another ball,
That's it. Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
is what we're saying to them today.
To pass a ball off to someone else too.
Pass the ball. Send
It's
it to
okay.
somebody else.
Mhm.
Every ball is not yours.
Not if every ball's not yours. I love that one. I'm gonna use that.
Every ball is not yours.
Oh.
And so I am so happy that we got a chance to talk about this most important topic. And I want to end, it might seem like I'm ending on a sad note, but it really is not a sad note. It's a celebration, if you will, of the memory and the lives of two sisters that you and I have just shared this week. We've had two incredible women who passed away this week, just days ago. And what it has done for us, it's reminded us of the importance
Self-care.
of self-care.
Absolutely.
One sister, I'm going to talk about one, I'm going to let you talk about the other. One sister, Judge Lisa Thornton, brought into my life and your life by our dear friend, Miss Jalene Davis, we just traveled with in March.
Yep.
Traveled to your home, the
Dined
Bahamas.
with. Mm-hmm.
Had a great few days.
Mm-hmm.
She was taking a much needed short vacation from her home in Philadelphia to Miami, Florida, just days ago, and literally dropped down dead in the airport upon arrival. our hearts are heavy. And we're talking about an amazing, talented judge. Hearts are heavy, but a mirror has been placed in front of us, full length. So we can't hide from what we see in the mirror.
No.
We know that we have to take care of ourselves differently. And that's no judgment on Lisa. This is just the reminder that we take from her beautiful life, that we have to slow it down a little bit and that we have to pay attention to us. I want you to talk about our other sister before we take a break.
Bridget Ramey, who was here in Nassau, who you would have had an opportunity to coach. She worked in the clinical space with me, and I would dare say a mentee who had become a sister. But just the train was moving. She had was about to go off to her son's wedding in Canada next week, and but was living and had lots of hope for what her future was. But again, was just, I don't know when last she took a chance to just breathe, but a beautiful sister who really enjoyed her work. Her patients loved her. Her staff loved her. She loved life. She loved her God. And, I think, like you said, the lesson, it was sudden, nothing expected at all. Intended to be to work that day, didn't show up, and we found her at home. But the lesson that I've come over the last 72 hours now, going into like 4 days post, is like you said, the mirror. What can I do differently for me? And then she has a daughter who is following her footsteps, who is in nursing school. And I made a conscious decision on Friday. How am I intentional? How will I be intentional to be there and to be a part of her story in whatever way I can, as she navigates life without a mother, or father, and what that means. So, these things come. Death is never easy. We will never get used to it. We won't understand we won't understand the circumstances around either one of these. But we can learn from it and adjust as best we can, right? And that's where I started beginning, like, how, for me, in addition to what can I do for myself, is how can I also be more aware and intentional, that I can say, Barbara, I think you need to slow it down, sis. Like, like just take the afternoon off. It may be as simple as that. And for someone else, it means that I need to go and get you and say, come, let's go to lunch. And just be there. No agenda. Just pull you out of a space where you are intentionally slowing down. So I think we need to be each other's keepers. This is a time when, more than ever, we have to be our sisters' keepers, because sometimes people don't know what they need. They don't even know that they need it, so the mirror is there. We've seen it. We know what we have to do. We'll do it. We're doing it.
Well, thank you again. And thank you for showing up on our first episode of Power Prayer.
So
Power Prayer and Prosperity. And conversations like this every Sunday afternoon. We're going to ask our listening audience to join us on Sundays at 3:00. It is our intention to inspire, uplift, and enlighten in places where we can. We will bring topics that are sometimes easy to talk about, but we'll also dig into things that are like this, a little more self-awareness that's needed, a little more looking on the inside, because our success, our power, and our prosperity really hinges on our ability to not only pray, but pray and be disciplined in our actions. Pray and be implementers of those things that we pray for, to be the activators in our own lives, and then to be the encouragement for others who may need it more. So once again, I thank you, Corley Adderley,
Thank you,
all the
my
way from the
sister.
Bahamas. I thank you for being with me today. It's been a joy and an honor.
Thank you, my
Thank
sister. I'm honored. Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Power, Prayer, and Prosperity Conversations with Coach Barbara Perkins on the Perkins Podcast, a weekly Sunday afternoon show committed to empowering and uplifting, motivating Black women globally. Your feedback is very important. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please send us some love by subscribing to our YouTube channel, going to our Facebook page. Do send us some suggested topics. We look forward to hearing from you and keeping you engaged with us right here on Power, Prayer, and Prosperity, the Perkins Podcast. Thank you.